All right, welcome back to our channel, Asset Coach and Tax Strategist. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us again. And if you're not a subscriber, feel free to add us to your subscription list and go ahead and hit the little bell so you get notification of when we upload a new video. The goal of our channel is really to help business owners and people who are interested in business or people who are looking at reducing taxes or alternative ways to build wealth and are kind of sick and tired of the mainstream advice. And so that's what we're here for. We're here to focus on business owners, how to use assets, how to look at assets, how to organize assets, how to structure assets to where you can build and compound wealth and allow you to actually utilize those assets to actually bring your tax bracket or tax liability down to where now you have less taxes owed. You have more money in your pocket, you're able to grow. And so that's the whole focus of us. And what's great about this is that it really puts us in the opportunity where we can spread our wings, our fingers into other areas of the news because of the topics. Because why? We're dealing with inflation, we're dealing with taxes, we're talking about retirement, we're talking about timing, we're talking about laws and regulations and our politicians, we're talking about competition, we're talking about all the aspects of businesses that we have to deal with. It's economics, it's capitalism. And so what we like to do in this channel is kind of weed through a lot of the BS, or more importantly, the fear mongering that is written. And so we bring to light a lot of articles that come and we read between the lines and we give you some advice on what you really need to focus on. And then we have articles like today where they actually agree with me, but they don't quote me and they don't say they agree with Bob Wolf, asset coach and tax strategist. But the article written is what I have been saying. And it's about China and de-dollarization. Okay, two topics that are very hot topics. These are distractions to keep your mind focused on this chaos, this fear, this distraction, so you don't focus on what? The political environment, what's going on in the White House, what's going on in other areas of the country. Okay, it is what magicians do, sleight of hand. Check this shiny object out, but guess what? You don't see what this hand over here is doing, right? And that's what the media does, and so as business owners, sometimes that makes it very confusing for us to, what do I believe? What do I do? I'm just trying to provide a product and service for my customers, my clients, my consumers. And really at the end of the day, I'm doing it because I enjoy it and I want to put food on the table for my family. I want a roof over my head and I don't want someone to tell me what to do. I enjoy doing my own thing, which is why I'm a business owner. So enough of that telling you what you are. Let's talk about China and de-dollarization. Now, according to Market Insider, this was back in May. So it wasn't too long ago, a little over a month ago, 3 reasons why even China doesn't want the yuan to replace the dollar as the world's reserve currency. So let's go. So the Chinese yuan is one of the top contenders in challenging the U.S. Dominance as a reserve currency. I didn't know there was challengers. I didn't know this was the Olympics, but okay. However, Beijing may not be fully supportive of making this reserve currency the currency of choice. Totally agree. And key challenges include Beijing's unwillingness to open its capital accounts or to run a deficit. Duh. We knew that already. So let's go into this. All right. A debate over de-dollarization has raged on for the past year, fanned by fears that Washington is weaponizing the U.S. dollar-dominated global financial system against Russia over the Ukraine war. Yes, guess what? This isn't the first time. What do you think we've done to Iran? What do you think we've done to other countries? Weaponizing the dollar is not a surprise. But guess what? That's not affecting Russia. Well, it is, but what resource does Russia have? That oil. And what do you think has been sustaining Russia? Oil. Who's buying that oil? Everybody in Asia and Europe, our allies included, including the Middle East countries who want to join Russia and China in the BRICS in what? De-dollarization. Okay, we saw all this with the euro. The euro actually made more sense, but you had so many different countries and nationalization of those countries and all that fun stuff. Now you're talking about people all over the world? Really? Good luck with that. But anyways, we keep on going. Even high-profile investors have weighed in. In April, billionaire investor Ray Dalio cautioned that the sanctions that squeezed Russia's dollar currency reserve increased the perceived risk that those debt assets can be frozen in the way that they've been frozen for Russia. Sure, absolutely. Do I agree with it? I do not agree with it. But at the end of the day, and the reason why I don't agree with it is that we are saying that Russia is the big, bad, ugly guy. He's the bully on the block, and poor little Ukraine, they didn't do anything. Well, I guarantee you, there's three stories. There's three sides to a story: Russia's, Ukraine, and what's really true, right? And we're weighing in on our opinion. No, we're weighing in on what we want to protect. So when we look at all the political environment and we see how hard this administration is trying to help a non-NATO country and giving of our tax dollar resources, something's up. Doesn't pass the smell test. Sorry. If we were playing the game BS, I'd have a BS card on my forehead right now saying I BS you. Consequently, various countries started lining up non-dollar currencies and alternative assets to use in trade and stash in their reserves. I think that's just good business for our country. If you can do it and you can use other assets and currencies that aren't the dollar, absolutely. What do we talk about in investing? Diversification, allocation, right? Makes sense. We do it as a country. So enter the Chinese Yuan. Dun, dun, dun. Trumpets, please. Dun, 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 dun. Right? So here we go. Streamers flying down. The band is playing. The Chinese currency is having its moment in the sun as a potential challenger to the US dollar-dominated global payment system. As it looks to broaden the use of the currency internationally, China has forged deals with countries including Russia. And while the currency isn't the only greenback challenger, it is the most high-profile contender against the backdrop of U.S.-China tensions and Beijing's alliance with Russia amid the war. Great idea. Two communist countries hand in hand drinking together, right? There's no honor among thieves, right? They're both communist countries, right? They are not family. I'm sorry, they just aren't. But for the period of time, look at Russia was an ally of ours. When? During World War II. Who wasn't? China. Now who's our enemy? Russia. China's our friend. Well, wait, hang on. Maybe they're not our friend. China is only our friend because they have cheap labor. Let's be honest. They have 1 billion people, and a large percentage of those 1 billion people can make goods and services for us consumers in the US. I've said this before in previous episodes, and I'm going to continue to say it. It's the truth. Okay? Why is Russia not our friend? Well, because they're communists. Well, so is China. But so give me a break. However, it would be difficult for any asset or currency to unseat the US dollar, as it is even the use of the euro as a far second to the greenback. And more importantly, Beijing wouldn't even want the yuan to be a major reserve currency for the world, an expert in China's economy told Insider. And I agree with this. And here are the three reasons why, and I agree with all three of these. Here are three reasons why even China isn't that keen on the easy for you to say, de-dollarizing the world economy. 1, China doesn't want to liberalize its currency and allow money to move freely in and out of its economy. No, they don't want transparency. That has been our whole issue with them. They are not transparent. They manipulate everything. They're not transparent. We know that. Everybody knows that. But even though China appears keen to upset the global dominance of the U.S., it only wants to do so on Beijing's terms. Duh. The chief China economist at London-based consulting Rory Green had said that. Now, the People's Bank of China has moved cautiously over the past decade to promote greater use of the yuan without disrupting financial security, and it's unlikely to upset that dynamic now, Green wrote in April 28th. This stability is maintained through the use of capital controls, a grip on how much foreign money can move in and out of China's economy, which in turn influences the foreign currency exchange rate. Okay, there you go. Beijing's policy has typically leaned toward having such controls as it considers them prerequisites for an independent sovereign monetary policy, Green wrote. Now, because of these controls, Beijing can never fully liberalize its currency amount, but it can still pursue RMB internationalization, referring to the yuan by its official name, the renminbi. I don't even know what that word is. I've never seen that word before. Rather than pushing for the yuan to become the dominant global reserve currency, Beijing is likely to pursue its sphere of currency influence among countries and trades with actively. It's likely to focus on breaking up US dollar dominance in parts of the world instead of, know what this sounds like? This sounds like when you have one sibling trying to get another sibling in trouble. Okay, China's going around whispering in other countries' ears about how the US is or isn't, and that we should probably tell mom and dad. Oh, hey, by the way, did you know? And that's what this sounds like. So is that part of politics? I guess. I don't know. It's probably why none of us like it. But let's keep on going. There's always been this option in China to change capital controls, except for Beijing. The question has been whether the global environment would support this. Are there enough nations who would adopt the one? Now, if there were enough nations, do you think they would now open up capital controls? My answer still is no. Why? Because Beijing, China needs the US consumerism. Go look at our other videos and episodes talking about China and how their economy is hurting. Okay, why? Because we're starting to pull manufacturing out. We're starting to move money, move our capital, starting to move things away. And here at home as well, with inflation and taxes and all this crap going on, people aren't spending as much money. And by the way, we still have a lot of people who aren't working full time. They're just working for money to spend money. Oh, it's good. Why work so hard? Oh, retirement's 20 years away. I'm just going to enjoy the here and now. We may not be a world in 20 years. We may implode. Global climate change. Oh my God, we may burn off the face of the earth. Oh wait, we may flood off the earth, right? All these things. So people are just working to play, playing to work, right? So that's an entire part of the economy now, of not just here in the US, but throughout the world. So that affects consumerism. That affects who makes these goods. China does, right? And China, even though their middle class is growing, what are they? They're growing to get out because it's a communist country. The same reason why so many wealthy Chinese are taking their money and buying real estate in the US. It's not to dominate the US, it's because they can't trust their communist country. And once the dollars are here, they're here. Okay, so it just makes sense. All right, today, let's see here. Okay, number 2, China doesn't want to and cannot afford to run a persistent deficit like the US does. No, it can't, because it's not a free market. The US dollar positions a cloud of reserve currency comes at a cost, the current account deficit for America. That's because there's more global demand for US dollars than American demand for imports, which changed when Trump was in office, and it would change if we took more of a nationalistic approach and actually moved manufacturing away from China and put it in other areas of the world. There's many areas of the world that have land, that have resources, that have people that we can actually manufacture goods and services with. In fact, we have a lot of those people here in the States. Oh, but our goods and services will be more expensive. Of course they would be. Of course, but you can't tell me giving all of our dollars away, going through all this crap with China, doing all these other things and putting all these other dollar deficit dollars budgeted in the rest of the US economy and all these other things isn't expensive either. Just saying. All right. So the drawback to running a current account deficit is that it leaves a country vulnerable to unexpected shifts in global capital flows, which is why everyone's trying to raise the alarm now on the yuan in the U.S. As Reuters' John Kemp explained in 2009, so there's right after 2008, we're probably recovering from the financial crisis. The U.S. has been running a larger budget and current account deficit than most other countries simply because it's the issuer of the world's principal reserve. As the globe, and this is why a lot of these countries are trying to go to the de-dollarization, because what do we stop doing? We stop printing money. We're raising interest rates, right? And so what are they not getting? They're not getting money. So when you're used to that, when you're used to handouts and you're not getting handouts, and you've built up your own economy and your own persona of having handouts, what are you going to do? Go look for other handouts. So I'm not saying these people aren't trying to work. I'm just saying that's human nature. And that's what they're doing. While China is the world's second largest economy right now, just because of the U.S., it just cannot afford to run a persistent deficit like the U.S. said. Green. China is politically unwilling and economically unable, barring significant structural reform, to run a sustained current account deficit and to provide sufficient supplies. Now, here's the funny thing. Even if they could, would they tell anybody? No. They're not going to let anybody know. They'll just manipulate and change something. But bottom line, it's just what's going to happen. Number 3, Beijing faces many geopolitical risks, so China needs alternative assets. That's right, they do. Why? Because they're a communist country. What do I say? One key challenge for any currency taking on the US dollar as the world dominant reserve currency is the greenback. Right now, even the euro's role is larger than the yuan. Oh, wow, but we don't hear about the euro anymore, do we? that thing barely can hold on to itself. So back in April, 43% of all global payments made via SWIFT were made in US dollar, while 32% were made in the euro and 2.3% were made in yuan. Now, what happens if this 2.3 bumps up 10%? Well, now it's going to be 12.3. Will that come off the dollar or will that come off the euro? It'll come off both. Okay? It'll come off both. Meanwhile, the US dollar accounted for the lion's share, 54% of global foreign exchange reserves. 54%, that's quite a big number. The euro accounted for 20%, while the yuan made up 2.5%. This means there's a lack of wide range choices when it comes to reserve assets. Bottom line. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. So I'm not going to keep saying it. I mean, the horse is down. I'm not going to keep kicking it, right? There's no sense in that. You get the idea. Now, is this something we should be thinking about? Absolutely, of course. Absolutely, of course. But this is part of why my opinion on my channel is we need to look at other areas of manufacturing. We do a lot of manufacturing in Ireland for technology. We used to do a lot of manufacturing in Mexico. I don't know if we still do. We got a lot of issues there with the cartels, and a lot of that is our fault for not taking control and being more dominant about that. But we also have a lot of countries in Central and South America that are quote unquote poor countries, but also so was China. They just had more people. So could we take some manufacturing in other areas? Of course. What's so great about China from a manufacturing perspective, it's one location, right? It's a big piece of land, one location where companies can get together, get on a party bus, go to that location, have their meetings, get off the party bus and go back home, right? So if you have multiple countries, which we already do that in most of Southeast Asia, right? There's plenty. There's areas in Africa that we can do stuff. It's just we need to be more creative. That's the thing about this, is that we took the path of least resistance, which is not a bad thing, but we stopped there. We didn't stop re-innovating and looking for other ways to protect ourselves. And so this is a mess we created ourselves. And when you create your mess, what do you have to do? You have to clean up your mess. Okay. And that just means we have to go collectively get together and come up with a plan of how we're going to do that. And it's not going to be instantaneous. It's not going to be in one political administration term. This is going to be something that's going to be long term. And that's what is the difference between communist countries like Russia and China, where they have a leader consistently there for a long period of time. Am I saying we should have a dictatorship? Heck no. But unity, understanding, agreements, yes. Yes, we see what monarchy, dictatorship does. Okay. So being the only republic on this planet, we have a lot to protect. We're responsible for a lot. We get hated because of that. We get loved because of that. We get backstabbed because of it. But you and I, as business owners, we have our community and our family and our friends to work with. We have our focus. Just focus on your thing. Do the right thing, right? Praise God for your family. Love God for everything you have and the blessings you have. All's good. All's good. So if you enjoyed our content, give us a thumbs up. If you didn't and you're like, Bob, this sucked, give me a thumbs up so I know that it sucked, and then I will do more of this sucky content. And if you have any comments, put it in the comment section. I love to hear what you have to say. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. This is the point. My name is Bob Wolf. I'm an asset coach tax strategist, and you are watching the Asset Coach Tax Strategist YouTube channel. Thanks so much. Bye.